Troops are now going to be deployed to the streets of American cities. We are also getting travel alerts being issued by federal authorities from the CDC. Also, new volcanic activity is happening inside the United States, and earthquakes are hitting volcanoes that could potentially erupt as well too, and we're getting warning signs for that. Lots of big news. Let's get into it here. Let's show you guys this new scene of these volcano eruptions happen in the Kīlauea Volcano. Right, you can see here, this was from earlier today. This was from this morning, August 6th, from the USGS, and we are getting lots of lava flows, and actually new vents are opening up as well too. You can see here in the circled area, that's an entirely new vent that has opened up on the volcano in Hawaii, and they're reporting lava spewing up to 300 feet into the air, right? So lots of activity and lots of pressure is being released here from this volcano. We will get into more details of that, but let's look at this travel alert that's been issued, and then we will get into these troops being deployed. But look at this travel notice that has been issued by the CDC. It says here a level 2 notice has been issued for travel to China for the Chikungunya virus. Also, a global polio alert has been issued as well too for international travel to a whole list of dozens of countries. And this chikungunya outbreak in China is being spread through mosquitoes. All right, we will get into more details of that in just a second. There's also been a nationwide ground stop of all flights for United Airlines due to a quote technical issue. But let's listen here really quick of the details of troops being deployed to the streets of the US. All right, this is big because these cities are deteriorating, right? And if something big happens, a mega quake, a super volcano, some type of natural disaster hits, or some type of war breaks out, certain cities are going to be very chaotic and are going to lose control quickly. All right, listen to this really quick. This was President Trump earlier today saying that he's talking about deploying the National Guard and troops to the streets of Washington, D.C. Listen to this really quick, and then we'll talk more about everything going on.
Something about it. So whether you call it federalized or what, and that also includes the graffiti that you see, the papers all over the place, the roads that are in bad shape, the medians that are falling down, the median in between roads that's falling down. We're going to beautify the city. We're going to make it beautiful. And what a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else, we're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly, too.
And do you want Congress to look at overturning the D.C. Home Rule Act?
We're going to look at that. In fact, the lawyers are already studying it. We have to run D.C. This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country. And it has so much potential, and we're going to take care of it. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe walking down streets.
All right, so you heard that there, Trump saying that he is going to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and also federalize the police forces there as well too, because he's saying crime is out of control. It's rampant in the city, and it is in a lot of big cities, and the situation is deteriorating. All right, let's get into more details here of this situation with the travel alert that has been issued, and then we will get into more volcano activity and earthquake activity too. There is a 4.6 that just hit Mount Spur in Alaska, right next to it, and this could be a warning sign that volcanic activity is going to increase there. We'll get to that in just a second, but let's read this travel alert that's been issued. It says here there's an outbreak of chikungunya in the Guangdong province in China. Most cases have been reported in Foshan City. Mosquitoes spread the virus that caused this chikungunya. It says you can protect yourself by preventing mosquito bites, which include insect repellents, wearing long sleeve shirts and pants, and staying in places with air conditioning or that have screens or windows and doors. They're also recommending vaccination. All right. I don't know if I would recommend that personally, but that's what the CDC is. It says here, if you are pregnant, reconsider travel to affected areas, particularly if you are close to delivering your baby. All right. And this could even potentially cause issues with your baby. All right. Things like microcephalus, macrocephalus, lots of issues with the baby. It's very similar to Zika virus in its symptoms when it comes to developing babies, and when they're born, that a lot of them have lifelong side effects from this. All right, so it's very serious if you or your wife, spouse is pregnant, because it could affect your baby. All right, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Travel alerts are being issued. They're warning people to not travel to this area of China and to just be careful if you go there. All right. Also, there has been volcanic activity happening in places like Alaska, right? Check this out. This 4.6 hit in Petersville, Alaska, and this is actually not that far from Mount Spur. Okay, there was actually two different earthquakes, a 3.0 and a 4.6, that hit relatively close for the size of Alaska. All right, it was dozens of miles away, but to have earthquake activity this close is a major warning sign that Mount Spur could be the next one to blow. It's also under a yellow advisory right now, too, under the Alaskan Volcano Observatory. All right, so also the Great Sitkin is under a orange watch and is currently erupting. All right, Hawaii is experiencing major eruptions too. I was showing these pictures. Here's also a video of the volcano, and this is the 30th episode that has happened from this volcano, so it's very active and very live, and is becoming a problem since December 23rd, 2024. So in the last 8 months, this is the 30th episode that has happened where we see major eruptions and lava flows from this volcano. And actually another vent has opened up, it appears, that is now spewing molten lava, and this is a sign that there's a lot of pressure happening. Okay, there's a lot of pressure going on and being released in this area, and for enough pressure to create an entirely new vent is concerning for the area. Right, it doesn't mean the volcano is stabilizing. It means that it's becoming more unstable, and it's actually more lava flow is moving to the surface here. Okay, so this is not a good sign. It's not the worst sign, because nobody really lives close enough to this volcano for it to be a huge problem, but it is concerning, and it's a major red flag that we could see more volcanic activity and geological activity happening as well too, especially in places like Hawaii and Alaska. Okay, and check this out here too. There's also been a lot of earthquakes in California. Right, this is near the Cascadia subduction zone up here near Oregon and Washington, and we actually had a 3.4 outside of Ferndale and a 2.9 outside of Petrolia, California. Also a 2.5 out of Markleeville, might have said that wrong, and 2.6 in Nevada, 2.5 in Southern California, and a 3.4 in Ontario, California. Also some in Texas, 2.9 actually in New Mexico, and a 2.6 in Texas. So we're seeing a lot of activity here on the West Coast. Not big earthquakes, but increased activity for sure. And you can see here is just some of the breakdowns of the different plates that are in play on the West Coast. Right, so we have the Juan de Fuca plate, we have the Pacific plate, and the North American plate, all sliding against each other. And this is actually where this entire part of the country is essentially a belt that is fused to the main North American craton. And this western part of the country is known to be very fluid with its movement. Okay, so it's in a relatively stable position in recent history, but throughout history it's been known to move a lot, right? And to actually almost detach from the rest of the country. So if we ever did see a megaquake hit here, it could open up these new pathways for big problems to happen, right? So just something to look out for. Also, we're seeing this record-breaking heat hitting at the same time as these earthquakes, volcanoes, National Guard being deployed. All right, World War III hints always happening. It's being reported that Trump and Putin are going to meet and talk about this war because the escalations and rhetoric has been happening on both sides, and it's become a nuclear threat event. They've both been threatening nuclear stances to take, right? Trump saying he's going to deploy submarines, and Russia saying they're going to deploy their own submarines as well too. But you can see here, all right, this is the weather data for Phoenix. It's predicting 119 degree high weather. Absolutely insane. Even in the shade, it's saying real feel is 115 degrees. And something a lot of people don't even know about weather temperatures and how they take it, they actually take the temperature in the shade. So if you're standing out in the sun and your car thermometer says, 100 degrees, but then, you check and it says, oh, it's only supposed to be 90 degrees. That's because they take the temperature in the shade, actually. So you're getting that direct sun feel, and that's more of the, quote, real feel temperature that you're getting there, the 119 degrees. So if you're just standing there in the sun baking, it's going to feel like 119 degrees, 120 degrees in some areas of Phoenix, Arizona. This is record-breaking, record-setting, and unlivable and unsustainable, honestly. I'm not sure how people live there. I could not handle it. I really could not handle it. Anytime I leave the mountains, all right, I live in the mountains, and anytime I leave the mountains and go like to a lower elevation, pretty high here, around 9,000 feet, anytime I go to a lower elevation, like go to town or go to a city where they typically are, it's a completely different microclimate, and it's almost unsustainable. Like I feel like I can't breathe sometimes because it's so dry and hot. And I'm sure that's what the heat feels like here in Arizona, is extremely dry desert heat. Humidity heat is terrible too. That swamp feeling where you're just sweating it out, clothes stuck to you, you can't sweat and cool down. That's just as bad, honestly. But they're different. But this dry heat too, it takes your breath away. I at least for me, I feel like I can't breathe. Sometimes I'm taking very short, shallow breaths because the air is just so hot. It's almost like burning my lungs when I'm breathing. So just make sure you are prepared here. Make sure you're stocked up. Make sure you have some water, okay? Because everyone's going to be cranking the AC. Everyone's going to be cranking their appliances and trying to beat the heat. And we could see blackouts and brownouts happen as well too. This happens a lot of times when we see extreme heat. It goes hand in hand. We will see power outages and power shortages as well too, because everyone is trying to compensate for it, cranking their AC down. So just make sure you have alternatives. Make sure you have some water, bottled water, jugged water storage tank, just something along those lines that you can cool yourself off and get out of the heat, and be prepared for this, and don't get stuck outside. I wouldn't be doing any crazy outdoor activities like hiking or anything like that when this is going on. All right, so just another thing that's happening, all right, in the country they're also getting air quality alerts as well too, because of things like wildfires that are happening in the area. The Grand Canyon is experiencing a quote mega fire right now. It's over 100,000 acres, and it's creating a lot of smoke and particulate in the air for this region. So air quality alerts are going out. We also have a ground stop halt for all United Airline flights bound for Chicago and other hubs like Denver, New York, Houston, and San Francisco. Lots of big cities are being affected from this United Airlines outage. They're saying that there's a outage with their systems for their load calculating capacity. All right, that is what's being reported. It says the FAA has announced a ground stop impacting all United Airlines flights destined for Chicago and numerous other hubs around the U.S. It says here in a statement to NBC Chicago, the company cites a quote technology issue behind the ground stop and warns that additional delays are expected. Quote, due to a technology issue, we are holding United mainline flights at their departure airports, the company said. We expect additional flight delays this evening as we work through the issue. Safety is our top priority, and we will work with our customers to get them to their destinations. So, like I said, there's something going on with their software where they can't calculate exactly their load capacity on the plane, the weight, and they're delaying flights for that. All right, that's what the inside scoop is. That's what people are reporting. So you could be stuck in the airport for maybe a few days. All right, if you're flying United and you're flying to or out of these central hubs, you could be stuck here at least till tomorrow. Hopefully they have it resolved by then, or at least some type of, backdoor that they can do that doesn't need this exact software that's down. But you could be stuck here for a while. So just something to think about, something to know that's affecting people out there. All right. So make sure you guys are staying safe. Make sure you're staying prepared out there. All right. I think we're going to see a lot more activity. All right. I think we're going to see a lot more natural disaster activity, geological activity, volcanic activity. There's actually flooding going on right now in places like Georgia and the southeast. They've had continuous rainfall happening in this area, and it hasn't let up, and it's actually been very cool and under the typical temperatures, all right, because the sun has been just blocked out from so much cloud coverage and so much rain that's been happening here. So flood watches are happening in places like northeast Georgia. We're seeing river flooding from rivers like the Chattahoochee River. All right, there's overflow, and the creeks in the area are filling up very quickly. All right, and there's nowhere for this rain to go. Lots of saturation on the ground. So just make sure, if you're in this area too, you're getting all the alerts, because flood watches are going out. You can see here places flood watches are going out through Wednesday evening. It says through 8 p.m. this evening, Wednesday, positions of north and central Georgia. You can see this map here. Lots of areas, Atlanta being covered all the way up from North Georgia, near Chattanooga, all the way down past Albany, Georgia, almost down to Florida. All right, these flood watch areas are going out. It says 1 to 2 inches of rainfall is expected across the area through this evening, with isolated amounts up to 5 inches. Heavy rain may lead to flooding of roadways, low-lying areas, and creeks. Turn around, don't drown. That's what the National Weather Service for Atlanta and Peachtree City is putting out right now. So if you're in this area in Georgia, make sure you have an evacuation route if you need it. And your best bet is just to be stocked up already and not leave the house if possible, right? Because you don't want to get trapped in a flood area, even an area where you think this area never floods, it never has flooded. it could flood. The ground could be saturated. The creeks could be full like they've never been before, at least you've never seen. And the area could flood. So don't take the risk of driving out. Whenever it rains really bad or snows really bad, I honestly just try to stay home. I know that's not possible for everyone. And sometimes you got things to do. You got to work. You got chores to do. You got to get groceries. You got to go to the doctor's office. There's things to do. There's life to live. But if you can stay home, please do it, because it just increase your risk of things like getting stuck out there, sliding off the road. All right, my wife, we were just talking about earlier how she has multiple friends from high school that actually passed away from car crashes just from black ice. All right, because we were talking about how she hates driving in winter weather, and it's already going to be like wintertime before we know it. And she was mentioning, yeah, she's mentioned it before, but we were talking about it just today, that she's had multiple friends passed away from black ice. All right, so it's nothing to joke around with, nothing to take lightly, these road conditions. And same thing when it rains, the road's slick, there's flooding, you can't see. There's been times where we've had to pull over, all right, where the rain's just like so bad we've had to pull over and get a hotel because you can't even see in front of yourself 5 feet, 10 feet. Sometimes it gets, especially down south in the southeast there. That's where I'm originally from, is down there in Florida. And sometimes these storms roll in and you can't even see in front of you. You can't see the neighbor's house across the street because it's raining so bad. You can't even see the yard, right? Can't see the trees in the yard. So just play it safe. Do not risk it with these flash flooding events. And this has been going on actually in Georgia for the past week or so. Temperatures are extremely low. The ground is very saturated, and they just keep getting swamped with storm after storm after storm. You can even see here saturated soils could result in quicker flash flooding conditions should rain persist over the same areas, which has been happening over the past couple weeks actually, especially the past week though. There's been a ton of rainfall in this region of Georgia. So thank you guys. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared out there, staying stocked up. I hope you have big blessings for your wife, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.